Did you notice how quickly Riley's perfect boyfriend, as she had in mind, appeared in the first movie? Well, at the age of 11, Riley already had in her mind the type of boyfriend she considers perfect. If you look closely at the Triplident commercial, a gum brand, you'll notice that the boy in it bears a striking physical resemblance to her ideal boyfriend. Could it be because you have to chew gum before kissing? And another detail, he even looks a bit like Jordan too.
Who the heck is that?
Imaginary boyfriend.
I would die for Riley.
Oh, I've never seen him before.
I live in Canada.
This is one of the 20 curiosities and Easter eggs we're going to show you now about Inside Out, this amazing movie that has several incredible details that most people who watch the film didn't even notice. Many people may not know, but Riley actually exists in the real world. The design of Inside Out's protagonist was completely inspired by Pete Docter's daughter, Elizabeth. Tell me if this girl isn't Riley in human form. And this time, it didn't even require artificial intelligence for that. Not only was Riley's design inspired by Elizabeth, but also the development of the emotions, as Pete, who not only directed but also wrote the film, was inspired by his 11-year-old daughter's mind, the same age as Riley, to make the movie. In fact, when the film was completed, Elizabeth was already 16 years old, as it took 5 years to make the film. Wow, I had no idea it would take so many years to complete an animated film. That's probably why it turned out so well. When each of the emotions accesses the control panel, it changes color, becoming more similar to the color of the emotion itself. Like when disgust makes Riley not want to eat broccoli, or when anger takes control of the panel after Riley's dad says there will be no dessert if she doesn't eat her vegetables, or when fear touches the panel, it also turns purple. The same goes for joy and sadness too. Speaking of the control panel, it's clear that from time to time, it's replaced in Riley's mind by different models by the maintenance team. This means that Riley's mind is expanding and becoming increasingly complex. In fact, in the new Inside Out movie, we see that all the demolition included a new control panel for the new emotions. And if you remember, back in the beginning when there was only joy, Riley's head's panel was quite small and had only one big button. This means that things were simpler and became more complex with the emergence of new emotions.
Wait, you can't move! Hey, what are you doing? All right, she's all set. Set with what?
Now, let's talk about a small mistake we noticed in Inside Out. In the scene where we see the newborn Riley, if we look from the perspective of the baby's parents, we can see that Riley's mother is wearing glasses. But when the perspective of the scene changes and we see the world through Riley's eyes, we realize that her mother is without glasses. Comment here if you had noticed this error before. We want to know. One of the coolest Easter eggs in the movie happens when Riley is still young and in her home's living room. We see a basket, and inside it there's a magazine. If you look closely, you'll notice that the woman on the magazine cover is Colette, that character from Ratatouille who is a chef and later becomes Linguini's girlfriend. When Riley's parents want her to eat broccoli, her dad says that if she doesn't eat it, she won't get dessert. This is the moment when anger makes his first appearance in the movie, and he's reading a newspaper with the main article titled, "No Dessert." And if you zoom in, you'll see that underneath it says, "Experts agree that dessert is good." These little movie details are amazing. Still talking about the newspaper Anger is reading, its name is The Mind Reader. This means that what's in there is not actually news, but what's going on inside Riley's head and her thoughts. In other words, the information in it must change all the time.
Riley, if you don't eat your dinner, you're not going to get any dessert.
Wait, did he just say we couldn't have dessert?
A really cool curiosity is that the emotions are not made of matter. If you look closely, you'll notice that Pixar took the care to animate each of them with particles that comes apart as the movie progresses. This was completely intentional and thought out by Pete Docter, as it would help explain the origin of emotions. But if you stop to think, it could also be used in the future to explain their disappearance too, if any of them cease to exist. Will that happen? That's a good question. Speaking of Pete Docter once again, this brilliant guy who is now simply the boss of Pixar, before making Inside Out, had already created and directed two other great original successes for the company, Monsters, Inc. and Up. All three were big box office hits, but among them, Inside Out was the highest grossing, making nearly $900 million. And that was almost 10 years ago. It seems like this guy is a treasure trove of great ideas. When we see Riley's childhood in the movie, there's a moment when she's running through the house and comes across an electrical cord. And we can see that it's white when seen through Riley's eyes, right? But when Riley stops and steps over the cord to avoid tripping, notice that the cord's color is now black.
Hey, Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we're back.
When joy and sadness are sucked into the place where long-term memories are stored, at one point we can see the visual of how the hundreds or thousands of shells are arranged. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the way they were arranged was meant to resemble the patterns in the brain. This is definitely one of the incredible details thought out by Pixar in the making of the movie that makes it so special. If you've made it this far, you're definitely a fan of Inside Out and must have watched and enjoyed the movie, just like we did. So if you're that person, comment down below, #mind, so we can know. We couldn't forget to mention Bing Bong, this character's so important in the movie. Everyone remembers that when he cried, he always released candies and sweets instead of tears. What few people remember is that he says the caramel one is the best. So the question arises, can the emotions and Riley's imaginary friend taste things? Or is this just a remnant of Riley's preference for caramel candies? I think it's the second option. This is because we can see that what Riley eats can even directly affect everything inside her head. We see this, for example, when she's with her friend, when she still lived in Minnesota, and she drinks a milkshake very quickly. When that happens, she gets that brain freeze feeling. And at that moment, literally, the control panel in her mind and all the emotions freeze. I love that scene. An Easter egg that appears in the movie is the famous Pizza Planet delivery truck, which is present in several Pixar films. In Riley's mind, it appears several times very discreetly in her happy memories. Without a doubt, memories involving pizza are always among the best. We're with you on this one, Riley. This is a very cool curiosity. Inside Out was the first Pixar film to be produced without a villain. This was a risky and strategic decision by the company because they wanted to focus more on the personal growth and self-development of all the people who would watch the film and could identify with the protagonist. And let's face it, this idea worked out very well, so much so that the film was a real success. Many people didn't notice, but the only character inside Riley's head who doesn't have a shadow is joy, which made many people come up with sinister theories about the main emotion in Riley's mind. But according to the film's animation team, this was intentional to convey the idea that the emotion was bright and optimistic all the time, something a shadow could slightly affect. That makes sense and makes the emotion even more prominent in its unique brightness. And also, Pixar surely wouldn't make such a mistake, don't you think? Or would they? If you've made it to the end of the video, you deserve a gift. So we've prepared one more super cool trivia from the film just for you. Remember the perfect boyfriend that Riley has in her mind that we talked about at the beginning of the video? Well, did you know that he was inspired by singer Harry Styles, who at the time of the film was still in the boy band One Direction? This also didn't happen by chance, like everything in Inside Out. That's because Elizabeth, Pete Docter's daughter, the creator of the film, was actually a fan of the singer at the time, and her father knew it. So he used the idea in the movie, and it turned out really well. Folks, those were the 20 curiosities, details, mistakes, and Easter eggs from Inside Out that we've picked out for you, along with the bonus for those who stayed until the end. It's so much fun to talk about Inside Out, and so you don't stop having fun, we've selected these two videos for you to keep the joy going. So choose one of them and continue your journey.